am. Hello there, outliers. Niiamah and Sean here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey here today. I got to say that and like enjoy that because that it really is about the journey. And today's Outliers Edge Roundtable, what we're going to do is spend time with three incredible outliers and explore more of their journey to create a more impact, more income, and more of their identity. And not just in the way where they get more of what they've had, but it actually more of what's coming at the next level. I want to take some time for you to get to know each of them. So why don't we start off with Victor? Victor, would you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me on the podcast. Um, well, I've been running a consulting business for over a decade now, and I've been working both with Indigenous communities globally and then with Black and Indigenous communities locally, primarily teaching them about restorative justice when it comes to some of the grassroots work, and then teaching folks that either work with young people or work with community members that might be exposed to trauma or violence. So I've been doing that for a couple of decades now, and I've been able to take that uh, all over the world. I mean, at least on this hemisphere. But it's been an interesting journey because also my business is based on my work, my experiences, my research. So it's very based on me. So it has to be. I have to be very careful that I am taking care of myself and at my best, particularly when I'm pretty much the product.
Oh, I love that here. We'll probably talk about that in quite a bit because a lot of outliers listening to this do see themselves in many ways in a similar light. So I'm glad that you're here, Victor. Thank you so much for sharing more about you here. Uh, Timi, let's get to know you. Tell us more about you and the game you're currently playing, please.
Hi, everyone. Good to be here. Thanks, Niiamah, for the invite to this podcast. It's an exciting one. All right. Currently, I'm head of people and culture at a global remittance platform, startup about 4 years old, doing great things from Africa, solving global payments, Bitcoin, virtual card services, APIs, and all of that. That's what I do on a daily basis. Help manage the people and culture side of things. And when I'm not working for someone, I'm either coaching students to become academically excellent. So I kind of came out with a first class when I was in school. So I just picked up some sort of interest in just helping people do well in the academics and using that platform to also impact their minds towards excellence. Also, when I'm not working, I do my podcast, which is Beauty Men Thoroughly. Just do something for help men, just pull out information to have more holistic men, build the mindset because I grew up places where there's not so much information, there's no role model, there's no platform, there's no measurement for the kind of person, meaning there's no frame of work, there's nobody to look up to in terms of manhood. So I picked up that body and I started doing that's why I started doing the podcast. Like just wanted to just put something out there for young boys, teenagers to listen to. Then on the side, just more like a business thingy, just to like personal strategy execution for people who want to implement on their goals, just do some coaching here and there. I have clients that I take per hour for every week. So yeah, that's what I'm currently playing around right now.
It's fun, as you were talking because like as you were talking, it kept expanding, right? You're like, so I have my full time. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm coaching the students. And when I'm not doing that, I have the podcast. And then on the side, I have this. And I was like, all right, cool. So what I get from you is that you have a full life right now going on. And I think that's going to be a really cool place for us to explore as we have our conversations to see how you navigate that, how you're able to like find high levels of leverage and keep the good times going. All right, I appreciate you being here. Ridwan, let's get to know you here. Mind sharing a bit about you and the game you're currently playing?
Yeah, thank you, Niiamah, for the invite, and it's nice to be here. My name is Ridwan Gbolagade. I work with Lace Partners as a senior consultant. And Lace Partner is an HR advisory firm specialized in HR transformation, change management, talent and skills. And what we try to do is to help clients across board in Europe, Americas, across the world, majorly to help them drive the HR transformation agenda. And when I'm not working, I love to host my podcast called the Self Transformation Journey. And for me, I just see that there's this societal dysfunction growing up where people feel like there are barriers holding them to become their best self. So I tell myself, how can I take away all those barriers? So I've been really intrigued by just the human mind, the psychology. How can I understand myself better, the people around? And it set me on a path to say, okay, these barriers, I want to take them away for myself and then help other people. So I try to do that to ensure that there's that proper emotional and behavioral transformation. And when I'm not doing that, I love to play football every day after work, just, kick around with the boys, play football, love listening to music, and I also love traveling, just all around kind of stuff. When you work a bit, play a bit. Yeah, that's me.
Right. So we got I used to work at a company and the motto is work hard, play hard. I like this. Work a bit, play a bit, and all plays in together. So let's give outliers a chance to get to know you all. I'm really curious about how you keep navigating your world here. Victor, I'm going to start with you. I'd be curious about like a belief that like you that needed to up level with you as you kept growing in your game. What's one belief that you had that you needed to up level in order to play the level you play now?
Well, I feel like at this stage of the game, I feel a little seasoned. And I feel I've heard this often from folks that are aging, that the confidence, I think, is higher for me as I've grown in the work, but also knowing that I still feel like a student, like I'm still learning, very open to it. But yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Do you mind if we explore that just a bit here when you talk about
Or
the confidence? Because I'll talk to the outliers and like I want to have more confidence, right? And I'm curious, like you brought up aging overall, and I think the thing that's making me smile is I'm like, um, that means as you say that it means like it to me it's like oh confidence may not have been there beforehand, right? So how did you feel like that confidence was grown, or was it just one of those things where you're like oh okay I get to a certain age and all the confidence just becomes bestowed? Like can you speak to that a bit?
sure. Well, I think I had very good mentors and teachers, so I was always striving for that kind of excellence.
Mm.
Um, I'm sorry, repeat the question again.
Yeah, yeah. You said you're like if my understanding is one of the things that has recently come into play for you is like it's like you feel confident,
Oh,
you're there, right? And I'm curious about how that confidence came because it was you tied it a bit to like age, all right? And I know a lot of outliers are like I want to feel confident when I'm doing like that's one of the things that's holding them back. And I'm like, well, we can't really speed up aging, So well, maybe we can, but like. So I'm curious for you about like, what have you learned over your period of time that has helped you like that now shows itself as confidence here?
great. Thank you for repeating that. So one is just that the experience of doing things over and over again, right?
Hmm.
And in my field of work, at this point, I mean, in 4 years, I trained 5,000 people in the city of Boston. You learn a lot about, and the beginning of my career was very much based on youth development. So I think one part is just that I started very early on focusing on a skill and a talent, and I just continued to work that. There were other things that I wanted to do, but my father was always in the back of my head, like, focus on your vocation. And if you do something that you love, it won't feel like work. So I've niched myself into that place. I always end up with jobs that I can't describe the titles to folks. It's very hard to describe sometimes what I do because some of it is a bit abstract. But I just kept doing it. And I think then the age piece is just that as we get older, we just learn more. So I think that, if I could go back and give myself a little bit more confidence, I think I would have done probably even, way better. However, the way that I built it was just developing those skills and getting very good at what I do.
So I love hearing this part here because a lot of us outliers that are listening, we're trying to build our thing out in the world, right? And you talked here a bit about you in 4 years you trained 5,000 people in the city of Boston. Did you do this like your organization? I don't know how many people are part of your organization now.
Well, when I was doing that project, I was
Mhm.
working at the Boston Public Health Commission.
Nice, nice,
And
nice, nice.
it started as a one person project, and then I developed a program to train other people to train other people.
See, this is the fun part here. Train it. So if I'm hearing you, like I didn't expect our second train other people there. All right. So you're creating these leverage points along the way where it started off with just you in it, one person that was doing it, and then you went and you said, okay, hold on, how can I find more leverage from this year? Let me create a training program to train other people on this thing.
Right.
All right. All right,
Right.
cool. Outlines. I want to put that into space here as we go in because one of the things that's working for me here and that I'm working on, and I'll be curious how you all think about it, is this component of like, how do I stop thinking of myself as just Niiamah, right? And the just Niiamah is the part. Like I love Niiamah. Niiamah is great. Well, like just Niiamah is a mindset that I realize that I have right now, where it's like, in what ways am I holding myself back? And actually be kind of curious for all of you guys. In what ways am I holding myself back because I'm like, well, my current frame says that I should only be doing this. Well, if I'm a podcaster, then I must have one-on-one podcast conversations, for example, and I'm looking to see like how can I keep expanding what what is actually possible for me. So, Timi, I'm going to come to you on that one here. I'd be curious, like, like with all the different things you have going on, how do you find ways to just keep expanding what feels possible for you, even if you haven't seen other people do it like you before?
Interesting question. So realize nobody has a roadmap yet. Nobody has all the answers. So
Can we just pause on that really quickly here? Like,
right, sure.
no one has a roadmap, right? No one has all the answers. There's something in there that I think is just like, because ultimately I'm going to be asking y'all some questions to be like, hey, y'all are successful in what you're doing. You have 5 different things going on. You have the full-time job. You have 2 other different things, and you have something on the side. You know, it's like how do you do it? And it's like, well, no one actually has all the answers. And I just want to just keep unpeeling that so that we as outliers can just like breathe into what is actually working for us. And then saying, well, since there is no definitive answer, how do I create what I want to create and make that work for me? That's my whole underlying thing here. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
upfront
right.
about that. So yeah, Timmy, when I say that, what else comes for you? What else comes to mind for you?
Uh, so I don't know should I stick with the question you
Yes,
asked, or we just go down
stick
into
stick stick with stick with the
having.
question I originally asked. If that's
Okay.
where you have a response at, yeah, let's go down.
Okay. So I said that because I figured that as you progress, especially if you know what I try to understand the nature of who God is. So I got introduced to the concept of God very young. So one of the things I was taught was there's a big plan. Figure out where you are in the big plan. So each time I change phases and seasons, it's according to the level of growth and transformation per time. So that potential just make me realize that, oh, okay, maybe between 2010 and 2020, you're supposed to be version 1.12 of yourself. And then in another 5 years, you're supposed to be version 2.160. And all of that, you keep changing versions. So I usually, when I do my coaching sessions, I tell people, you you always need upgrade like your apps. Like I don't know if you use apps, you just say, oh, update this. And for human beings, you just have to be curious about what's the next update, what's the next version of me. So that concept of, oh, there's always a next version of me. I think I've gone through all the learning curve here. I think I've gotten everything I need to get at this phase. What's the next version of me? So because of that mindset of the next version of me, I'm always curious. Okay, what's the next thing to learn? What can I do that I've not done before? How do I tweak this? Okay, nobody has done this before. Is it going to solve a problem? Okay, will I impact just 100 people? I don't need to look for 1 billion people. Can I start with just 100? Oh, should I start with just 5 people and just share these thoughts with them and see what happens? And over the years, I found out that in just yielding to just small nudges and all of that, you find out that in a space of like 5 to 10 years, might not be so much to some people, but you've impacted 500 people. And if you didn't do anything about it, maybe you wouldn't have even reached anybody. But that small thing, just write that book there. That's how I wrote my first book. Just do that. And you find out that, oh, 500 people have read your book. Oh, 50 people have read this. And you're like, wow, really? Like, if I didn't want to do it. I just thought it's just something to just, I do on the side. So for me, the understanding that there's always a next version, regardless of what I'm capable of doing right now, regardless of what I can do right now, there's always a next version. So when I hit that, okay, I begin to get dissatisfied. I begin to become curious. I begin to search. I begin to read. I begin to, I need to break through. And once I'm into that season again, I begin to learn, and then it's, just play that curve entirely
Play it
again.
again.
That kind of work for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that there. I feel you in that. Well, there were a couple different things that came up as you were talking about. I'm going to come over to Ridwan right now. Ridwan, question for you. Can you hear me here? Okay. You might have lost him for just a bit there. We physically lost him now. Um, so, Victor, I'm going to come back to you a bit here. You talked earlier about the experience of doing something over and over again, and I want to kind of put that into perspective and really enjoying like excellence, and there's something in here where I think about like your unique excellence, right? Because underneath everything, Outliers is a movement of belonging, and it's about like, how do you continue to step into you? So, I'm curious, right? Like for yourself here, I guess the question in my mind is like, how do you keep from being bored? How did you navigate that? Like, I was gonna come up with like this big intellectual question. I was like, no, the real question here, the biggest thing about it is like it doesn't take much to understand, but like, how do you keep yourself in the game in that way?
I feel fortunate that I'm very curious. And I'm curious and I obsess over things. So I don't like to start things and not finish it. So I find myself, and I'm also a creative. So I'm constantly, if I'm not painting, it's singing, it's writing something, going out, trying to stay social, because I'm very much an, an introvert. I call myself a fake extrovert because after five, I'm not so much. But I maintain myself curious, and I know the areas where I'm a little bit weak, where I want to like push myself to make sure, to keep me alive and fresh.
I love it. I love it. Ridwan's back here, so I want to bring him into the conversation. Um, Ridwan, I'm curious for you.
Yeah.
What's something that you like? I want let me ask this question here. I asked this question of Victor earlier, but I'm curious about it for yourself. You keep playing and growing your game as well. What's something that like needed to change within you, or like a belief that you up leveled in order to play at the level you play right now?
That's a good question. I think for me, right, when I was working in Nigeria before I moved to the UK, it was for me to like up my mindset, right, to think that I am on the level of that, global best practice, to play with the top talents. The fact that, oh yeah, I'm working here, I could actually like play onto the higher level by doing some really nice projects. So when I was working in Nigeria, I wasn't doing more of tech type of stuff. Then I told myself I was pretty much into HR consulting. I said, okay, what do I need to do to get to the next level? So I was joining different forums where we had different HR consultants across the world. So we're having knowledge sharing sessions, talking about different best practices across the world, not just what I had learned that was limited to Nigeria. Because the end goal for me was to play at the top level and see what best practices are across HR consulting. And I learned new things. And like Timi said, as a person, you have to learn to reinvent yourself. And I got that small note to say the next level for you, Ridwan, is to take a product management course. And before then, I was just thinking, okay, what I can see now is just HR consulting. So I had to reinvent myself. I expanded my scope and said, okay, even though it's a bit of tech type of stuff, what do I need to do to get there? I enrolled for the course. I did the course for like 3 months. That was good. I still kept attending the forums, the knowledge sharing sessions. And right from Nigeria, I applied to a job and I prepared my CV, and I was shocked because at that point, people were like, oh, Ridwan, do you think you can actually get a job from Nigeria? And just go to the UK and you get sponsored and you get good stuff. I'm like, yes. I think the mindset for me is I could play on that big league as well. And then I don't have to limit myself with the belief system that since I'm here, this is just what I'm going to get stuck to. But like Timi said, I got the smart to say, this is what is next for you. I felt like I had maxed out everything I was learning where I was. I'm like, okay, I'm done here. I've done team management. I've done culture transformation. I've done HR, advisory projects. What is really next for me? And lo and behold, I tweaked my CV, I checked different things, and I started getting offers. I was shocked. And I had interviews, I prepped, and lo and behold, I actually got a job in the UK. And my friends were like, whoa, Ridwan, how did you do it? Can you? And I started coaching some of my friends that were looking to, get into the UK, get into the US. My CV became the template for people. Do you have interview tips? What to look out for? But it started with just the mindset shift that I could play on the big stage as well. I don't have to limit myself, and I had to go on that. I had to build a roadmap for myself to learn, build the skill gaps in that case, and here we are. And I can't wait to see what it becomes. Since I've joined here, it's more a case of how do I reinvent myself for the next level. I'm learning a couple of things. I'm saying, okay, yes, I think I want to resume my podcast back now, put a bit of touch into it, and everything also have like a leverage point of helping you go to the next level. Because I remember when I was having my interview, my podcast played a part. Oh, yes, talk to us about your podcast. What's that about? Team management. How were you able to get people to come on board? How were you able to impact people? What was the impact on the people? My sister was impacted just listening to my podcast. She shared things she never shared with anybody, just listening to maybe a podcast on how to build self-esteem, or how to build self-confidence, or how to be like, how to heal from trauma, all this kind of stuff. Other people. But when I had that during my interview, it had like the wow effect on the recruiter. And in that case, there are different opportunities to leverage just from growing it as well. And I just really can't wait to see what comes up next and the type of belief system I'm able to break away from as I grow older into this. Yeah.
So we're gonna play with this a bit here. There's a couple things that really got me, and what I think is lovely about this conversation is that like everyone's gonna pick out what they're gonna like, what they're gonna get from here, right?
Yeah.
The things that were calling me was this element of like I can play in that big league as well. I really, really felt that. I talk a lot here on Outliers Edge around like how do we just help you continue playing the game? It's like you're an outlier. Yes, you're a part of the data set. You're like, well, that's an outlier result. I'm like, well, if you're going to
Yeah.
get that response, then like, why not get that response for being 10 times as bigger? Like
Yeah.
it's, I feel like a lot of times we accidentally hold ourselves back in whatever league we're in. We're like, well, we're at the top of this game.
Sure.
If I went any further, it wouldn't make anything here. So, I really like that really struck out to me. I think I'm going to keep playing in that space of like, how do y'all keep finding bigger and bigger leagues to play in, or changing up the game in general. But I actually do like the idea of a bigger league because normally I'd be like, I'll just start a new game, and you're like,
Yeah.
actually, I'm really good at this game. I just want to play it at
Yeah.
like the all-star level, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious here, like Victor, there's something else you said. I'll probably come back to you in a bit with one, but like Victor, I think about you. You're saying like, hey, I picked this spot, and I just kept getting into it. So I'm curious about like what resonates with you around like the league play idea and finding bigger leagues to play. And Timi, you as well. Let's start off with Victor here, and then like I'll be quiet for a little bit. I'll be curious of what you all like. I'd love for you to talk about like the game of like stepping up in your leagues and continuing to grow for a bit.
Well, I think it's definitely a challenge when you don't see people in the position that you're in. So I do think that I like that visual of going to a higher league, absolutely. And also because for myself, I feel like I wouldn't have gotten to this place if I didn't, for instance, writing a proposal and thinking, should I ask for this much, or asking basically for what you're worth, right? And understanding what some of the industry standards are and looking at how I had been selling myself previously. I'm like, oh, I'm completely underselling considering all the skills that I have. So in that, I think is what brought me to one league to the other, because then with more money came more responsibility, more complicated contracts, and and I think that that's pretty much how I played it. Yeah.
Can we talk about that really quickly here at TV? I see you, so I want to bring you in. What came first? Like, was it like the element of, okay, I have to have had the experience first, and then I can put it into the contract, or is it more like, hey, look, this is what it's going to take for it to get done. I'm going to put it into the contract, go play at that next level, and then almost like build myself into the person that can fill it out. Be curious for you and your experience how it works. Sometimes it might be a dance, but in terms of yeah.
As of late, it's uh, gosh, I just want to. Sorry, I blanked out a little bit.
Yeah.
I just want to constantly aim for that next thing. I want to make sure that, again, like I said earlier, I think my curiosity too. I just want to be able to um, sometimes sometimes I will challenge myself with a contract. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
So, for
Yeah.
instance, I know that I'm good in one area, and then I'll see, can you do that? And then I said, oh, okay, what part of what's happening is your fear. So, if you can't do that, why not? Jump in. I have the resources or I have the skills, but really kind of pushing myself, I think, has been part of the help with that. And then upping those contracts, but also making sure that I have the capacity for it because the quality for me is very important.
Nice. Timi, Ridwan, like what's coming up for either of you right now and from any part of this conversation?
Interesting thought. I don't know. As I think it was Ridwan who mentioned big league thingy. I remember the movie I watched. I don't know if I can mention it here. Suits. I'm sure we've watched the series or somebody. And then I
Yeah.
remember Harvey. I remember Harvey talking to Mike and says, "Oh no, don't go play in the small league. Come play in the big leagues with the big boys." you know, and what's he gonna do there? Come on, it kind of just made me think interesting. So that means for every industry, there's the big league, right? And depending on how determined you are, if you're aligned with where you're going to, you should aim to play there, right?
Yeah.
You should want to play with the big boys, right? As I said. And of course, not just to make a lot of money, but also to, I think a lot of people underestimate the power of influence. I believe in the power of influence a lot. I believe that you should be so big and influence a lot of things. You should be a culture shaper, and to be able to shape culture effectively, you need a lot of influence. So I don't like small for anything. So when he said, "Oh, you should play," it just made sense to me. So when Ridwan was saying it, I was like, "Oh, interesting. That's solid. That's solid." Because the audacity to even say, "I'm going to play in the big league." Is the starting point. I think for everyone, principle based is I deserve that. I can play in that league. I can train towards it. I can get the network. I can get the certifications. I can have the mindset. I think it starts with that audacity to say, oh, I can play in that league, right? That's why the outlier thing that makes a lot of sense for me. And when I saw the message, it just reminded me of the book Outlier by is it Malcolm?
Malcolm Gladwell.
Yes,
Malcolm
Malcolm.
Gladwell.
I was like, oh, interesting. Anything that's going to make me in the top 1%, like I'm going for it. Like even if it's going to take a cycle, I'm going for it, right? I think that mindset triggers playing in the big league. I think it's a major one, and it doesn't mean you are undermining the small league. It just means that you want to
Yeah.
play on that level at the level of your potential that you have. Of course, cause impact to cascade downwards from that which you are doing.
Yeah, so I think I want to corroborate to Timmy's point and to just speak more to the big league thing, right? And for me, I feel like it has more to do with your mindset, right? And with the mindset, it goes with what you really believe about yourself, right? It's enough for people to say, oh, yeah, you're good with this, you're really smart, but what do you really believe about yourself? And I feel like that's the mindset you have about yourself. You see a lot of people, I mean, people smart, but they're good, but there are some barriers holding them down that are very, subconscious, that they are aware of, some they are not aware of. right? Some is self-inflicted, some is societal, like it's society inflicted in that sense, internal or external. And I told myself what I need to do. So in it, like Timi said, so saying big league, it doesn't mean that I'm trying to say, okay, yeah, you don't have to have humble beginnings, but it's like the next level in that note. But what you say is a lot of people, there are barriers holding them down to move to that big league. And some of those barriers, there are a lot. And I think that's what even pushed me to say, I want to have a podcast. I want to transform myself so much that I am so refined that nothing can hold me down. I want to I want to be on my deathbed, like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. I want to be on my deathbed feeling like I've exhausted myself. And I feel like, oh, even though if maybe there were regrets, like, okay, I feel like I should have done this when I was younger. I want to still feel like there's a chance for me to still, re change the narrative I'm telling myself, reinvent the wheel. I don't want to feel sorry for myself. Like I want to push the bar, so much that I don't, it's not like you're not gonna be fearful, but I feel like nothing can hold me back, nothing can stop me. And so the mindset shift, I see a lot of people at work. I'm like, yo, why are you so positive? Why are you so optimistic? I'm like, yeah, I know the boundaries between being, optimistic and pessimistic, but it's just I need to take away the barriers. Nothing will stop me, right? Because you see around, for example, let me say, when I did one example is I had a session on imposter syndrome. And when I see my colleagues in the consulting space, in the tech space, imposter syndrome is a big deal because it's a very competitive landscape where people are pretty much pitched against themselves. You want to be the best person, you want to, and in that sense, still a lot of people they're very good and they're even scared to play that big league, to play to the next level because there's something holding them back. It could be the fact that I'm so, I'm so much of a perfectionist, and I had an imposter syndrome expert come on the show and she explained the self-limiting beliefs around the different imposter types. And when I got that light bulb effect, I was like, whoa, so I see where this is coming from. That is even not because I'm super smart, I'm super good, it's even from a case of low self-esteem, from a place of parental trauma, how you learn from your parents, how you learn from your society, made you to say you want to be the best so much that the expectations are so high that you're not even seeing yourself. And I'm like, those are the barriers I want to take away little by little, shred by shred. And then I'm also going to just, cascade that to my wife, my family, and the impact continue to just, record that way. So yeah, I think that's how I say it. Mindset shift, breaking away all the barriers, all the self-limiting beliefs so that you can play at the big league.
Yeah, I look, y'all have gotten us thinking here, and I appreciate it. Like this, I think this is a good place for us to start wrapping the conversation as we're talking about like the big league and coming in. You've given me some different language. Like honestly, I've like when you said league, I was like, of course, like we can go and play the game in a different league, and so I appreciate all of you and outliers. Like for you here, if there's someone in your world right now that could play in a different league that is ready to bring in confidence as well as experience along the way, or to find different ways to keep playing with all the different parts of themselves here. I invite you to share this episode with them. We have an initiative that we call One Person, One Conversation at a Time, the One Person, One Conversation at a Time initiative. And it's really just like sharing in the movement of belonging that is this, and letting someone know that like you see them, you hear them, you think that this conversation would be meaningful for them, and my ask is that you go and you share it with them, share it as a gift, let them know when you share it why you chose to this particular episode and why you thought of them. I think that look, you can, I'm always going to ask for you to share this with other people and like rate and review and all those things. But I think the bigger I have a sense that one of the bigger underlying like impacts from this is going to be how one person at a time we shared these conversations with people who mattered to us, and we kept expanding the conversation from there. So I'm going to come to you three here, and we're going to wrap up our conversation here. The way I like to do a wrap up is that I want to give outliers a chance to deepen the conversation with you, so we can share how they can contact you to go further with you. Please do. And then I also would love for you to share an insight that you got from this conversation, something that you're walking away with, something that you're taking away from this conversation. So, what's an insight you got from the conversation, if any, and how can outliers continue down and deepen the journey with you? Why don't we start with you, Victor? Then we'll go to Ridwan. Then we'll end with Timi.
Well, part of the insight for me is sharing with you all, hearing from you all. It's really nice. Niiamah, you have quite the talent of bringing people together. I can see that. So the insight is that there are people out there that we don't have to do this work alone. The big leagues, of course, and then when Timi talked about curiosity, I think that also kind of stayed with me. And then what was the other question?
How can we continue the journey with you? What's your contact from there?
So I'm on Instagram, Victor Jose. I also have a website where you can contact me through there. It's victorjosesantana.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for playing the game that you play. Let's go to Ridwan. Share with us an insight you got from the conversation, if any, and how we can continue down the journey with you.
Yeah, thank you. I think for me, it's breaking away from any sort of like beliefs, holding you from playing at the next level. Because I really feel like that's where you can fulfill your potential if you're able to take away those self-limiting beliefs. And for me, it's been part of my journey, trying to just reinvent myself, like Timi said, and continue to evolve as a person. Like this year, maybe I'm on version 5.0. I want to see what next year is going to look like. Maybe it's going to be version 5.1, So I look forward to that, and it's a journey, right? So it's not a sprint; it's a marathon. I'm not in a rush. I just want to be in all of my journey, my growth, and keep finding myself and keep being the best version of myself. And I think that's what really stood out for me. And you can reach out to me on LinkedIn at Ridwan Gbolagade, on Instagram at Reid Leroy, on Twitter as well at Reid Leroy, and you can check out my podcast as well, The Self-Transformation Journey with Reid. It's on Spotify. Check it out. Thank you.
Also, can you see your podcast one more time? It just broke up just a bit.
Yeah, The Self-Transformation Journey with Reid. It's on Spotify, Apple, and other podcast platforms. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, Timi, bring us home here, please.
All right, it was a great time here. I think I learned a couple of things across board from Victor. I think I learned spiraling down into what you know how to do and getting very good at it, and be willingness to take that step outside of a comfort zone. I think that stood out for me from Victor's conversation. Regardless of your age, just make sure that you know what you know and willing to take the step. And of course, from Ridwan, breaking self-limiting beliefs and playing in the big leagues. It reminded me of what I usually know, and it just reinforced that. And then, of course, from Niiamah, the capacity to bring people together, willingness to give of yourself. So I think this is a lot. This is sacrifice, and we really appreciate you for doing this. So I would just want to leave with a parting note of keep digging. There's just more. There's just more about you. Life is beyond your normal routine. There's an elevated you at every point in time. There's a new you, and it doesn't start at the beginning of a new year, as so many people think. It starts at a new discovery of what the next is, and your willingness to, of course, do that gap analysis and move towards that new you. You can contact me on Instagram, LinkedIn, everywhere the same name, Timi Awesu, Timi-Awesu. I have my podcast, Building Men Thoroughly. It's also available on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, and Timi Awesu. That's what I had to say. Thank you again for inviting me to this. It was a good one.
It has been a really good time. I appreciate each of you here. Thank you so much for bringing all of you to this conversation. You got me thinking, you got an Outliers thinking, and we got a great thing going on. Outliers, I want to say this to you as we end our conversation here. Just remember this: between now and the next time we talk, be you on purpose. Journey on.